Hello everyone, welcome to this week's live stream. Slightly different setup this week because I'm away from where I normally do it. So I'm doing it on my laptop and using an iPad as a second screen, which is a little bit, so far has been a bit flaky. But let's see how we get on. And actually, just as I've said that, this is annoying. Hold on a second. So far, it's been a bit flaky, but let's see how we get. Okay. Right, hang on. At the moment, I've lost my YouTube questions thing. How annoying. So I can't see any questions that have come in. Actually, maybe I'll run it on my phone. All right, let's just do it. Let's jump into it. I'll keep an eye on it on my phone YouTube. So if you've never attended these before, how it works is we'll look at some of the major announcements for next week that are due out, and then we'll jump into the markets. We'll look at the major markets, indices, currencies, crypto, some of the commodities, gold, oil, the usual stuff. And then if there's any stuff that you want looking at, if you put it in the chat, then we'll look at that when we've looked at the major stuff. Let's see. It's really unreliable using that Mac, that iPad as a second screen. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's go through the some of the housekeeping first, and then we'll get started. So let's do a risk warning. This presentation is only for educational purposes. It does not contain and should not be construed as containing investment advice or an investment recommendation or an offer of or solicitation for a transaction in any financial instrument. David Jones accepts no responsibility for any use that may be made of these comments and for any consequences that result. You should consider whether you understand how spread bets, CFDs, futures, foreign exchange work, and whether you can afford to take the high risk of losing your money. Trading is risky. Okay. There's quite a lot going on next week. I mean, there's two major announcements next week in the US. 4th of July, which is that Tuesday of next week? Clearly a holiday in the US. But on Tuesday, we've got Australian interest rates coming out. Clearly at the moment, inflation and interest rates continues to be the big focus for markets. So that'll be interesting. Wednesday, we've got EU PPI data. So producer price index. Could be interesting from an inflation point of view. The big deal, though, in the first half of the week is the Fed minutes, the minutes from the latest meeting of the US Central Bank, the Federal Reserve. They're out Wednesday evening. So expect some volatility, I think, over that. Perhaps give us a clue as to what the Fed thinks about the economy. How do they feel about inflation? Inflation has been dropping in the US. And some clues about where interest rates may be going next in the US. And then on Friday, it's the non-farm payrolls. So it's the US unemployment figures. From memory, the last ones absolutely smashed expectations. So we'll see. I don't think I'm going to be around next Friday to do the live stream. I'm trying to do a bit less of this sort of thing, to be honest. But if you're subscribed with the alarm bell notification thing switched on, whenever I do pop up live, you get the notification half an hour before. So next week, Wednesday evening is the one to watch. Wednesday evening UK time anyway. And Friday for the non-farm payrolls. Let's see. A quick word from the sponsor, which as usual is me. You'll know by now if you've watched a few of these, I do a training course. I've done it for a few years now. There's lots of information on my website. I'll put a link to the website in the description of this video, but davidjonestrading.co.uk is the trading course. As part of the trading course, when I launched the short-term course last year, I live traded an account, talked about it a lot in these YouTube sessions. So from November to the end of January, on a £4,000 account, sterling account, closed profits was just under £2,200. Again, there are more details about that on my website. I did it because I think there are lots of trading courses out there. Most of them aren't very good. I think they're done by people who don't trade. Everyone's very cagey about their results, not surprisingly, because if they don't trade, most of them. And if they do trade, they probably don't know what they're doing. So I did it to try and be open about the reality of trading and how it worked. I'm doing the same thing again now. I've talked about this a bit in the past. I'm building up again another 3-month window. So this is one of the accounts I've been using, or the account I've been using. So I started trading it in May of this year. I put a few grand in. I can show. I mean, so far it's been a really good week this week. I wasn't expecting it to be a good week this week, to be honest. I came into this week thinking it might be a bit of a flaky week, a bit of a difficult week, because I've had a good run the last few weeks. But overall, it's doing okay. So again, on this account, the risk per trade I'm doing is a couple of £100. Some of the biggest winners at the moment, dollar yen, FTSE trade, I only put that on yesterday. Crude oil, I did that in the week. To show you the numbers, I've been running this real account. I'll talk more about it at the end of July when I finished the 3-month period. But if we look at the window I'm doing from beginning of May to now, so I've got another month gone until I start talking about these numbers properly. Win rate is 58%. So out of all the trades, 58% are profitable. And that is pretty much bang on what my historical trading has been over the years. So almost 6 out of 10 trades make money. But again, it's not about being right all the time. This is the important number, my risk versus reward. So on closed trades, just over 1.5 times. So if I lose £100 on a trade, typically I make £153 on a trade. The performance up 47%. Since the beginning of May, I have to say, past performance is no guarantee of future performance. I have had a really good run in June. This is the breakdown of the trades. 18 trades have been winners, 13 trades have been losers, 31 trades overall. So what's that? Maybe a trade every other day. So the booked profit has been 2,700 on, I think, was it a £4,000 account? I can't remember. But that's the booked profit. Biggest winners, Nasdaq's been a great winner there. Swiss yen trade, I talked about that the other week. That's been a good winner. Another Nasdaq trade in there. Biggest losers, they've all been the same size, a couple £100. As I say, my risk is a couple £100 per trade. So a mix of different trades. That's what the P&L looks like. Bit funny there. And then I've been closing some trades here. So that's it. So over the last month on this, was it a £5,000 account? £2,700 in closed trades. At the moment, I'm running just under £500 profit on the open positions. And I'll talk more and give a full breakdown of this account at the end of July when I've finished doing this 3-month trading period. There's also this trading account that we use for the live YouTube stuff. This is real money as well. This started off with a couple of £1,000. At the moment, this has got an open equity of just under 3,100. There's the Neo trade we did last week on the live stream. That was in more profit. Went short Neo. They've had a bit of a bump this week. I think maybe the EV sector has had a bump because Aston Martin did the tie-up with Lucid, didn't they? And I wonder if Tesla's had a bit of a bump as well. Anyway, and I did that video on natural gas during the week, went short natural gas. That trade's doing all right. So if there's any trades today, we'll do those trades in this account. So that's a bit, about hopefully my credibility that I actually do this. But what I wanted to talk about, this WhatsApp group. So I've been running the WhatsApp group since January. It used to be just for people who've done the course. I've opened it up to everybody in the last month. The WhatsApp group, I do a daily update, what I'm looking at, markets I'm watching, trades I'm running, talk about that, Q&A, any questions, fire them in. If you want to join the group, you have to pay to join it. But if you use the code YouTube, you get the first month at a 20% discount. So you can try it and see. So, like I say, I'm going to try and do less YouTube stuff during the summer because I want to have a bit of a long holiday. But for those of you in the WhatsApp group, it will continue as normal. And those of you on the course, it will continue as normal. So that's a snapshot of what it looks like. A bit of blurb from me every day, a chart of the day sort of thing. But if you go to the website, davidjonestrading.co.uk, and the part of the website is a thing called subscribe. You can go and join the WhatsApp group, normally £50 a month. If you use the code YouTube, it's £40 a month because you get the 20% discount. That's it. Okay, so all the links will be in the description to this video. So there we go. Right, let's have a look, shall we, at markets. So what's been the bit, I mean, these stock markets are doing well again. I bought the FTSE yesterday. I mentioned it. I think I mentioned it in the WhatsApp group earlier in the week, and I said this morning I bought it. I think it was an interesting move yesterday. You know, we'd had this FTSE clawing a bit higher, sold off yesterday, and held sort of into the close, the UK close. So I bought yesterday, and it's gone like an absolute rocket today. So that's been quite handy. But let's take a look at these markets. Let's start as usual, I think, with the US markets. Let's kick things off with the S&P. Here we go again in the S&P. Almost at fresh all-time highs, isn't it? Let's what was the high in the S&P middle of June? Was 44.48, and here we are, 44.37. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw this market go to fresh all-time highs. You know, my view on US stock markets is the same as it has been for months. I'm a buyer of the dips in US stocks. You know, we've got this uptrend that's been going since whenever. Or this recovery, I should say, that's been going since whenever, since October last year. You know, really strong market. That's it. You know, if I was looking at the next target for the S&P, I'd be looking at these old highs from Feb and April last year, around about 4,600, something like that. So I'm happy to be a buyer of the dips on the S&P. Same goes to the Nasdaq. There we go. There's our little Nasdaq recovery that's been going since all this year, really, isn't it? The Nasdaq. Great little trend on the Nasdaq. Again, I'd be a buyer of the dips. You know, even if the Nasdaq fell to 14,000, you know, if it lost 1,000 points from where it is now, which is what, a 6% drop, we're still in that trend. You know, so again, I would just be buying the dips. I did wonder, you know, do we have a bit of a problem up here? We have these old highs from Feb 2022 and March 2022, around 15,300. Are we going to see a bit of nerves up here? Let's see. But overall, this trend is still up for me in these markets. Nikkei, or let's do the DAX, the German market. I do have a medium-term trade on the German market. I must admit, I was not sure where it was going to go this week. But again, a big move today in the DAX. It was only 2 weeks ago that it hit fresh all-time highs up here. So for me, that trend is still very much up. Buy of the dip on the DAX. 15.6 has been good support on the DAX going back to the beginning of May. So again, if we had any weakness next week, I'd be a buyer. I think the Nikkei is interesting, the old Japanese index. Good trend in the Nikkei since March of this year. And again, I'd be a buyer of the dip. You know, if I was a buyer today, probably the closest I would have my stop the other side of these lows from the beginning of June, maybe a bit further away. But, you know, these stock markets are all in uptrends. So I bet that most people who are trading it are short, because most people are always the wrong way. Yeah, some great trends in these markets, in stocks, and you know, something of a recovery the last few days. FTSE, so I did the FTSE trade yesterday. It's been quite fortunate. It's sort of had a bit of a blast today. I mean, the FTSE is a bit different. You know, the FTSE overall, if you looked at the year overall, it's pretty much sideways, isn't it? But, you know, I do wonder if we're going to see a bit more strength in the stock market, in other stock markets. You'd think the FTSE would get a bit of a lift. maybe back to 7,700 up here. So yeah, let's see. So it's all good at the moment for stock markets. Let's see how the week ends. The other trade. What else should we look at? Should we look at? Let's look at oil for a change. I did a trade in oil this week. Nearly got stopped out, but I didn't. It is boring from a medium-term point of view. If you look at that, that's this year in December. It's a pretty boring market, oil. And I don't. For me at the moment, there's nothing to suggest the boringness is going to change. It was an interesting short-term trade this week. Where did I buy? I actually bought it in here, and then the market promptly fell off a cliff, but it has turned around. And I was buying it really because it was getting knocked towards the bottom of the range, but there's still no trend really in oil. So I'm in the trade at the moment. I've got a trading stop. It's done all right, but it is pretty directionless oil. Particularly you can see it on the dailies. And you could even argue that the trend since June of last year is still down. Let's see. But nothing too exciting in oil. I did the natural gas video this week. I went short natural gas. I thought it was an interesting trade to do. I don't know if it's the right trade. Is it in profit? I think it's slightly in profit. Oh, it's up $130 or so. So I went short.
I didn't catch that.
Wondering if the old highs at $3 end up being a problem on natural gas. That was the reason for the short. So I think $3 is maybe a level to watch in natural gas. If it breaks through there, it looks like we do have a proper reversal, or the starts of a reversal of this big trend. So I think it's interesting. Like I say, I went short. When did I do the video? I think it was Tuesday. So I went short in here somewhere, and it has moved a bit lower. There is quite a bit of support though from 240 to 250. So there's absolutely an argument to be either a buyer or a seller on natural gas at the moment, because you could completely argue the trend for June is still up. You've got higher highs and higher lows. So from a short-term point of view, be a buyer, and let's see if we get a run at $3. From a more medium-term point of view, you could say, okay, we've had a bit of a run up, but $3 has been a problem going back to March of this year, so let's go short. So there's a bit of stuff that needs to be resolved, I think, on that side of things. So let's see. So yeah, natural gas is more interesting than oil at the moment. Oil looks pretty dull. Let's see what next week brings. Let's take a look at gold and silver, shall we? Gold, funny market, gold at the moment. This trend had been there. There we go. If we go to there, if we go back to the beginning of the month, the trend in gold off the November lows was still up. So I would absolutely have been thinking about being a buyer, but it's just drifted. There we go. So we're just gradually edging lower in gold. And I wonder, I haven't done a trade in gold, I think, for a couple of weeks. I think I did buy it and I got stopped out. I wonder if there is a trade at the moment. Perhaps the trade is to be a buyer with perhaps 1900 or thereabouts ends up being a bit of support. 1900 to 1880, perhaps these old lows from the middle of March. It sort of held above it yesterday, so maybe there's a bit of interest there. That's maybe a trading idea. I must admit, I'm not going to do it because it's just too boring for me at the moment, gold. But let's see what happens. It's falling out of that uptrend, but perhaps it's fallen a bit too far. Perhaps we'll get a little squeeze up towards 1980, 2000 from here. Let's see. But, it has been just edging. You can see it there on the hourly chart. It's been edging its way lower. If I had to do a trade today, I'd probably go short, actually. Should we do that? Let's do that trade. Okay, we're going to go short. Based on the hourlies, we're going to go short. Because it is, it has been edging its way lower since at least here. For most of this month, it's had a little blip up today, but it can't really get through these highs from earlier in the week. Let's go short gold, stops above 1920. That's what we need. A bit of decisiveness. Let's go. Gold. August. Gold CFD. Gold mini CFD. Okay, trade it. I don't know how many we need to sell. What did I say? 1920 for a stop, didn't I? Let's go 1925 then for a stop. 1925. And we say we're willing to risk about $150. There we go. Done. Okay, so I'm going to sell gold short. I'm going to take the view that actually up here we're going to struggle and go back down below 1900. Let's do that trade and see how it works out. Okay, place the trade. Done. Okay, so we're short gold. So like I think there are arguments for being long or short gold up here. So to me, the trend for the last month has been down. So a bounce is an opportunity to sell short. But if you look at the dailies, maybe we're going to see a bit of a rally next week. Let's see. Let's see what happens. I don't have really that much commitment either way in gold, but let's see what happens with that one. So that's gold. Silver. I think maybe silver was a bit more interesting. Here we go. So silver, I haven't traded silver, I don't think at all this year. But silver, if we looked at the trend since last September, trend in silver absolutely up. I think it's interesting where it's nudged its way down to this sort of $22 level over the last week or so. And this is we've got the trend line coming in here. So maybe the story for July will be a recovery in silver. Let's see how it plays out. If I was a buyer here, because silver can be such a crazy market now and again, I would probably want my stop below these lows from March, below $20, because because silver, it moved $2 just the other week. It moved $2. So if I was a buyer here, I'd still have a wider stop on that. But that might be an interesting market to watch next week. So we've done gold, silver. Let's have a look at the currencies. I think when it comes to the dollar, it's all still a bit mixed for me. We were talking about this, I think, in a WhatsApp group yesterday. This is the dollar index. So this is the US dollar against a basket of different currencies. And it's just sideways. It needs to make its mind up. What's it doing? Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? And clearly this has an impact on so many other markets, euro, US dollar, gold, copper, all these different markets. And it's just directionless, pretty much. I think it's a difficult one in the medium term. I mean, I'd be a buyer in the short term. We've had a good run. This is on the hourly chart. We had a good run over the last week and a bit. So it's maybe quite an interesting trade for later today. Maybe there is a trade. Maybe there is. For me, I might do a trade on that later on today. Let's see what happens. I think it's interesting. It's been knocked back, so clearly we've had some news out. I haven't been paying attention today, but I think it'd be interesting to see what happens if it gets knocked back. I mean, it's pretty much near yesterday's low. It's come within 14 points of yesterday's low. There might be a trade there later on. Let's see. But so short term, a bit more interesting. Medium term, not so much. All pretty sideways. And of course, we see that in everything else. Let's take a look at some other markets. Pound against the dollar. I was short pound against the dollar. I did get stopped out for a profit just before I started today. I went short. I thought it was going to be a better trade than it ended up being. I went short a week yesterday, after the interest rate announcement came out. So I've been short since there, did nothing all week, fell off a cliff on Wednesday, and I came out of it. I would perhaps still be tempted to be a seller. On the hourlies, I'd be a seller of the pound. But again, on the dailies, the trend since last year is still up. And this is why we need this US dollar to try and resolve what it's doing. But absolutely, pound against the dollar, there we go. Lovely uptrend. So a buy of the dips on the medium term. But in the short term, I'd be a seller. So again, a little bit of a mixed picture there. Euro dollar, I'm long euro dollar at the moment this week. On the medium term, again, it looks a bit scrappy because of this dollar lack of direction. It's had a good day today. I've been long. I'm probably just about back in profit on that. It's been my worst trade of the week. It was slightly against me. There we go. I'm making a massive £10 so far on that trade. Been in that trade since Monday or Tuesday, I think. So medium term, it's a bit of a scrappy week. I ended up buying in here Monday. It was up a bit, and then it's been down a bit, and now we're back up. So again, a bit scrappy, short term. Dailies, arguably the bigger trend is up, but this year all a bit sideways. So quite confused for some of these major markets. What else are we going to look at? I think if we take, I've been looking a lot more at markets that don't have the dollar in. So sterling yen, absolute great trend in sterling yen. Hit a new high early this week, sold off a bit, bounced around support, and off we go again. I'm in a Swiss yen trade at the moment, which has been a bit sideways. Is it going to break out again next week? But some great trends, and euro yen is another interesting one. Some great trends in these ones that take the dollar. That's the longer term chart for euro against the yen. The ones that take the dollar out and that dollar uncertainty and sidewaysness out. I think there are some interesting markets out there for those. Dollar rand, because I've seen Nick is in the chat. Nick popped this in a couple of weeks ago. I missed this trade actually because I was waiting for more of a pullback. But it's really interesting now. This is dollar against the South African rand. So the big trend for the US dollar has been up since at least June 2021. So we're 2 years into that. Then the thing accelerated away, bang, 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 all this year, the dollar. And then it sold off, and it's been so much support here and here and here, and it's really turned around. So I've missed it, but I wonder if it sold off again and bounced next week, I'd be a buyer of that. So that's probably, for me, the most interesting US dollar currency pair at the moment. But I thought I'd mention that. And what else have we got? We've looked at that. Bitcoin. Should we look at Bitcoin? So again, I think I've been saying for most of this year, even though I'm not a fan of the crazy world of crypto, the thing is in a recovery, isn't it? We saw it get boosted up to the highs for the year a week ago. It's not done much this week. Perhaps it's a bit overstretched. I'd be a buyer of the dip. We've got good support left. The other side of 25,000 on Bitcoin. That trend is up. That's it really for me on Bitcoin at the moment. So I'd be looking to see if it can get a move back above 30,000. But I'd rather buy a dip at the moment on Bitcoin than just pile in blindly up here. But the big trend is up. So before we get into the stuff that you want looking at, what's interesting for me, it is still stock markets, going into next week, because we are seeing again this strength. Wow, look at that S&P go. This strength this afternoon once more in stock markets. Let's see what happens. We've got those Fed minutes on Wednesday, and then we've got the non-farm payrolls the Friday after, the Friday, this time next week. So let's see what happens there. For this afternoon, I'll mention it in the WhatsApp group if I do actually do anything. I think that's quite interesting, the dollar index, a bit later on today to see how that works out. I've just had a bleep saying my car alarm has been triggered. I'm in the northwest of England, you see. Big crime area. But I think that's an interesting one to watch, that dollar index this afternoon. But for me, the strength in these stock markets, I still think, is that going already? I still think we're going to see expecting new highs again for the year. I've been I'm not madly bullish on stock markets. I think perhaps we'll have to be a long time until we see these old 2021 highs threatened. But absolutely buy the dip mode in stock markets. Let's see how it turns out. So again, to join the WhatsApp group and get all this fantastic insight and more every morning, if you go to davidjonestrading.co.uk and use the code YouTube, you can join the group for a month for a 20% discount and see what you think. You can always cancel if you don't want to stay in it. But and like I say, I am going to do less of this sort of stuff because I want to do more not work type stuff. But I'll put the details in the description of this video. Right, let's have a look at some of the things you want looking at. So I'm just looking now. If I miss any, just put them in again because I'm having a bit of a problem on my end. What's sentiment on the EV market as a whole? Electric vehicles? I don't know. Let's have a look at Tesla. as the barometer, I think it's positive overall, isn't it? I mean, Tesla, the trend is up. We did trade Tesla in this YouTube account. When did we come out of it? There, 15th of June. So it came out of the trade then. I would still be a buyer of the dip in Tesla at the moment. I'd rather see a bigger dip, but let's see. I think we had quite. We've seen a big slide in Tesla since November 21 when they were $415 down to 120. It's a massive move, isn't it? But I think it's in recovery mood. Lucid, I think I mentioned those at the beginning, have done this tie-up with Aston Martin this week. Aston Martin announced it. They did. It's quite interesting. They gapped up on the news. They sold off, and they've actually done really well since then. So this is another one. I mean, the big trend is still down. I'd be perhaps a bit cautious of me. And NEO is the one I'm short of at the moment. And I would quite happily stay short on that, to be honest. So for me, Tesla still looks the most interesting. I think clearly sentiment is very different to what sentiment was 3 years ago towards these electric vehicle stocks, So let's see. Can we have a look at Coinbase? Someone has said. So Coinbase, the crypto exchange. It looks, what do you reckon? I would probably go short Coinbase, to be honest. I mean, if you look at this year, we're pretty sideways, isn't it? This year, actually, I wouldn't go short because it's just in the middle of the range, isn't it? So it's just boring for me. It's not an exciting one. So if I was going to go short now, the closest I would have a stop, a really aggressive stop, would be above the high for the day. So above 75. A bit more of a wider stop, a lot wider, would be up above these highs, the highs for the year from Feb. What does it look like today? Is it a bit all over the place? Should we do a trade on Coinbase? Let's do a trade. Let's go crazy. Let's do a trade. Where should we put the stop? Let's go 80. So we'll go short Coinbase. So I just think it's been knocked to the top of its recent range, and I think it's going to fall again. Let's see. So we'll go short Coinbase. Let's bring that one up. So where is it? Coinbase. I don't know if I've got enough margin. Let's try it. So I'm saying 80 for a stop. And we sell, I don't know, 15. Have I got enough margin? I haven't got enough margin. 10? I don't know why that's not working. Have I have enough money to trade? All right, I'm confused by that. Let's forget about Coinbase. But I would go short Coinbase up here. So no, it's not one for me. Can we have a look at Euro Sterling? Euro Sterling on the hourly chart. It's had a good run, hasn't it? It had a good run. I haven't looked at it today. Let's have a look. I must admit, I never trade it. Let's start off with the dailies first. I mean, that's the dailies. I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. On the hourlies, I mean, I suppose, you could argue that there's an argument for being a buyer or a seller, which isn't me sitting on the fence. Obviously, there's an argument in all markets for being a buyer or a seller. Otherwise, markets would just go one way. You could make the argument the trend in Euro Sterling has been up for the last 10 days, 7, 9 days, whatever it is. You could make that argument, and I want to be a buyer. So you could make that argument. If you looked in the short term, you could say the trend for the last couple of days has been down, and I want to be a seller. I would probably lean towards being a buyer. I wouldn't buy it today. Personally, for me, if I was trading that, I'd wait to see what happened on Monday, and I'd want to stop probably at least the other side of 85.50. But I never trade Euro Sterling, or very rarely trade Euro Sterling. So it's not one for me. But maybe we'll see a little bounce next week in Euro Sterling. Can you say why you use CFDs rather than spread bets? This account that we do these YouTube trades on is a CFD account. I only use it because I've already got a spread bet account with that broker. So for me, for my own trading. So this account I'm using as this 3-month example, for example, this is a spread bet account. So for me, because in the UK, spread betting is tax-free, profits are tax-free. If you're going to be a profitable trader, which most people aren't, you should use spread betting. So for me, I would always choose, as a UK taxpayer, spread betting rather than CFDs. And the actual mechanics and the risk is the same, of course. It's just the way spread bets are treated in the UK from a government taxation point of view. If you're going to be profitable, you should use spread betting. In my opinion, I do. It's up to you what you use. I hope that helps. Have you had any previous employment at investment banks or mainly brokers? Brokers. So all my career has been working in the retail trading space. What do you think about the XBI Spiotech ETF? Hang on. XBI. That's the one, isn't it? What do we think? Let's have a look on the dailies. I don't know. What would you do? I suppose I would say, is it trying to recover? It looks a bit. It's another one. It looks a little bit boring to me. From a short-term trade point of view, I could be a buyer now with a stop maybe the other side of 80, but it's not really. Again, it's just been. If we look at that's the last 9 months, it's just a bit sideways, isn't it? It's a little bit boring for me. But if I had to do anything at the moment, I'd probably be a buyer rather than being a seller. But no, it doesn't look the most exciting thing in the world for me at the moment. Can we look at Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc? CAD chuff. Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. I don't think I've ever looked at this. What do you think? I would go short, I think, is what I would do with that one. So it's gone from up here. Oh, it's almost textbook, isn't it? Textbook short. Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. Interesting one. So we've had this downtrend that's been in place since June of last year. So we're 12 months into it. We've had a little rally up, and it's sort of hanging around near the old highs. I think we've got to do that trade, haven't we? It's such a textbook trade, isn't it? So for me, I think it's definitely an interesting short up here. You know, it's coming off this 12-month plus low. It's a much bigger low than that, isn't it? God, it goes back a long time, that low. They're coming off this multi-year low, the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. It's having a go up here, but it just can't get through. So maybe, should we go short with a stop around, we should do 69 stop, give it a wide stop. Let's do that. Canadian dollar, CAD against the chuff. Okay, sell 1,000. Stop loss at, what did I say, 6,900. Is that maybe a bit too wide? I don't know. Let's sell more than 1,000. Let's sell 10,000 then. So 10,000 with a stop at 6,900. My risk is 130 Swiss francs. No idea what that is in proper money. So let's place the trade. There we go, done. So we're short. We're short the Swiss franc against the Canadian. No, we're short the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. I think that's an interesting one, there, isn't it? Interesting medium-term trade, that one. Let's see how that works out. India 50. All right then, the India 50, the Nifty. Is it the Nifty 50? It is the Nifty 50, isn't it? Let's have a look at the India 50. I'm sure it's the same thing. It's been a funny market, this, isn't it? I remember we looked at this a while ago, and it broke out to fresh all-time highs, or I think they're all-time highs, which is normally bullish, isn't it? And then it just completely flopped its way back towards the lows from September. So, again, this is another one where I think it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, isn't it? So, on the one hand, we absolutely have an uptrend. So I would lean to being a buyer. from March. So I'd be a buyer perhaps next week if it stops going down. It's still going down today. So I'd be a buyer next week. But we are also in the zone where it ran out of steam back in November, just ahead of 19,000, isn't it? So let's see. But I would be in the first instance, I would be a buyer, and I would have a stop probably the other side of 18,000. Interesting one for next week. Let's see if I can remember to have a look at it early next week and see what that looks like. And CrowdStrike, buy the dip? Question mark. CrowdStrike Holdings. Oh god, that's fortunes have really changed on that, wouldn't they? Yeah, I would buy the dip on that. I remember we were looking at these back in the old days, so it's way up here. Yeah, I would. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So we had it. We had the big downtrend in CrowdStrike, which is a software company, isn't it, from memory? From November, where did it go? It went from $300 nearly to below 100. Anyway, so we've had that. It looks like it's broken at that. We've broken some big levels. Blah blah blah. I would be a buyer of the dip. What would we do? So for a stop loss, where would your stop go? For me, my stop would probably go at least the other side of $130. That's what I would do. But I think that's an interesting one. Oh, CrowdStrike. Should we do that as well? So I just use up all the margin again in this account. So CrowdStrike Holdings. So what are we saying? What am I saying? So what were these lows? Should we say 125? 125 for a stop. I've got to buy. So if I go 125 for a stop. Oh gosh, no, hang on. 125. Okay. Going to buy them at 147. Stop at 125. Let's see what happens with that. Perfect. We're trading crazy today. I think that's interesting. So I'd be looking for at least a run up to 160 and beyond on that one. So let's see how that little trade does. Euro Aussie. I've been watching Euro Aussie a bit. I think I've got it. Where is it? I can't find it. Okay. Euro Aussie dollar. We've clearly looked at this before because I've drawn some lines on it. It would have been a great trade. Great trade down here. Middle of June was a good trade. Up here, I don't know. What would you do? I suppose I would not want to go short because the trend is up. But also, personally, I wouldn't want to buy it up here either because it looks maybe it's gone a bit too far. So for me, it's almost a sit and wait one at the moment. I think Euro Aussie dollar. Absolutely, if it got knocked back towards 1.6 again, I'd look to be a buyer. For the fans of the old squiggly lines, it's a bit overbought on the RSI as well. So perhaps not really one for me. I suppose on the hourlies, if we flip it over to the hourlies, again, there's not really a short-term trade there for me either. So I think I'd have to be a little bit patient on that one. Euro Aussie. Crude oil. Now we looked at crude oil. I'm still long crude oil. Medium term, it's a bit boring. Short term, it's got a bit of a move on the last couple of days. It'd be great if it ran up to $72 plus next week. That'd be great for my trade. But it's just a bit directionless. Crude oil, isn't it? Occidental Petroleum. Okay, Occidental Petroleum. On the dailies. It looks, it's what I would probably say it's a trading buy, isn't it? For me anyway. But it's been sideways for nearly 18 months now, hasn't it? But, absolutely in the mid-50s or the 56s, it looks like a buy, doesn't it? But it's not the most exciting one. Particularly when you consider what stock markets are doing. Old Oxy is not doing very much, is it? But, I'd rather be a buyer of the dip in Oxy. Check out Race, all-time highs today. Race. We looked at these before. Oh, Ferrari, isn't it? Of course. Look at that. Oh, breakout. Lovely. Buy the dip, if it ever dips. That's done incredible Ferrari this year, isn't it? What's it done this year then? So it's gone from 220 to 325. So what? I can't even do the maths. About nearly 50%, isn't it, for the year? Il Ferrari stock, great stuff. Yeah, Apple. I saw Apple was up a bit. Where are they? Is that all-time highs again? Apple breaks out after so we had to go. So we last had all-time highs beginning of last year, and then it's broken out again. Absolutely buy the dip in Apple. We've clearly looked at that before because there's a lot of lines on that chart, isn't there? Lovely, lovely, lovely Apple. Buy the dip. Can we have a look at? We looked at Euro Sterling a little bit earlier on. So once I finish this, you can rewind and watch Euro Sterling. It's a little bit boring. I think we've looked at gold and silver as well, so you can rewind that and have a look at gold and silver. And otherwise, I think we're done, aren't we? So we'll start wrapping things up there. Let's have a quick look at these stock markets before we finish. Look at that. Off they go again. Without me, the S&P. I was waiting for a bigger dip on the S&P. I've been really caught out. I mean, I have had a good couple of months, so I shouldn't complain. But I've really been caught out. I did trade the Nasdaq, actually. But I've been caught out by some of these sharp turnarounds. I've been waiting to buy the dip after the break, and the dip never happens. But I am in the FTSE trade, and that's doing okay. So I think stock markets are going to be interesting next week. Dollar index this afternoon. Do we get the bounce? No bounce at the moment. Let's see what happens. And that's probably the main stuff for me at the moment. I mean, some of these commodities are interesting. Palladium, I was long palladium. I got stopped out of that. Palladium is on a multi-year low. Palladium. Platinum, I was wondering, I think we had a bit of a chat about it in the WhatsApp this week. Was there going to be a bounce in platinum? Platinum, not happened yet. Let's see. And sugar. Sugar was the other interesting one. Sugar, the big trend since October is up. And we're right on the trend line now. So I think that's an interesting market for next week. And of course, it's a new month next week, isn't it? So let's see. Let's see what happens. So that's it. We'll wrap it up. Like I say, I might be here next week, and I might not be. I'm not sure yet. I'm trying to get a little bit of a break in. But to keep up with all the stuff, there is this WhatsApp group that I run. I think it's good. I mean, join it and see. If you go to the website, davidjonestrading.co.uk, use the code YouTube. You can subscribe to the group for a month for a 20% discount. See what you think. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. And with it, switch the notifications on, and that way you'll get a notification when I do the next live stream. If I'm around next Friday, I will do it because it is going to be an interesting week next week with the Fed minutes and all of that, the non-farm payrolls as well. But we'll see. But like I say, to find out about the trading course, go to the website. There's lots on there about the performance and all that sort of stuff. To join the YouTube, go on the website. To get in touch with me, you can do it via the website. And that's it really. So it ended up for me being a much better week than I thought it was going to be at the beginning of the week. I hope you've all had a good week as well. Let's see where we are next time round. So until then, good luck with your trading, and any questions, drop me a message. Okay, thanks very much for coming along. I've now got to figure out how to end this thing.